The 10 best Pokemon sets in history. Now, this video is one I have wanted to make ever since I started my channel, and I have gone back and forth aiming to literally perfect this list. And to be honest, this video feels like my most important video thus far, as I genuinely have put in months deciding this list. Every choice and position in this video has been meticulously chosen, and I explain my rationale behind every decision. This list means a lot to me, and I intend to ensure that it is true and timeless, and ultimately, I truly believe this is the definitive list. Now, seeing as this feels like my most important video to date, I'd love to celebrate by gifting these 3 different PSA 10 cards to 3 different subscribers. The 3 gifts available today are, in the first spot, we have the PSA 10 Japanese Pikachu pre-order promo, an incredible pre-order exclusive card of Pikachu for Scarlet and Violet. Now, in the second spot, we have the PSA 10 Tyranitar art rare from Clay Burst, which is one of my favorite Tyranitar artworks of all time. And in the final spot, we have the Japanese PSA 10 Mewtwo from 151. Now, to enter the giveaway and to be selected for one of these gifts, all you need to do is make sure to like this video, then subscribe to the channel with bell notifications turned on, and finally, leave a comment sharing your thoughts on the video. Honestly, the key to getting selected is to get a real conversation going. I don't care if you disagree with my opinions. What I care more about is that you contribute to the conversation in a meaningful way. Now, to know if you've been selected for one of these gifts, just keep an eye out for these 3 lucky Bulbasaur emojis. So if I reply to your comment and add the lucky Bulbasaur emoji, well then, well done, you have won one of these gifts. Now, these gifts are available to win worldwide, so getting involved is a great idea as there are 3 gifts to go around. And also, regarding the previous giveaway in a separate video, I'm pleased to say that the lucky emoji has been awarded and the gift has already been posted, so well done. And of course, you can actually access all these emojis with channel memberships, so feel free to join as they help me to continue building content. The link to join is in the description. Now, whenever making this list, it's going to be tough work, right? And there's a few reasons for this. Firstly, one of the main issues here is a lot of people have skewed viewpoints relating to their favorite sets, especially during their childhood years, including myself, right? So I've had to actually do a lot of work to distance myself from childhood memories to make this list. Nostalgia has a way to create these rose-tinted glasses, and it can be hard to disassociate them with your favorite childhood classics, right? I mean, we have all been fooled by nostalgia's incredible allure. I mean, have you ever revisited your favorite childhood game and then you've just been unable to play it in today's modern world because it's just like a janky and a pixelated mess? So for this video, I focused heavily on not letting nostalgia be so much of a deciding factor. Still, more so, I focused on the cards in the set, the box art, the impact, the general artistic direction behind the set, along with how memorable it actually is. I've also thought how cohesive the designs of the cards are, and if the set is not too bloated. Making a great Pokemon set is similar to a musician making a great album. It needs to flow and be free from filler. So I've really thought deeply on how well sets have been crafted and how well they've been conceptualized by Pokemon. But this is mainly focused on over my 20 years of TCG experience. But without further ado, here we go, the 10 greatest Pokemon sets of all time. Sitting at the 10th greatest Pokemon set of all time, it is Evolving Skies. Yes, this iconic set caused a fissure with Pokemon collecting. Now, if the Pokemon craze wasn't already reaching its peak of popularity during 2021, well, to add some oil to the fire, Pokemon decided to release arguably one of their most creative EV-themed sets during the middle of the biggest hype period in Pokemon's history. This is one of those situations that can never be remanufactured. Evolving Skies was placed perfectly within impact, timing, and artistic direction. Even if you tried to recapture Evolving Skies timing, you couldn't. It had the perfect time release schedule. This set literally broke the mold. It contains over 17 alternate art cards within the set. It also carries a very consistent artistic theme throughout the set, and each artwork is incredibly memorable, especially the Evolution cards. Evolving Skies has sensational artworks. The V alternate arts are absolutely stunning, with with notable cards such as Dragonite V with its fantastic color scheme and its iconic sleeping pose, which is just super memorable, right? To the Evolution V cards, which all perfectly capture the evolutions within their own natural elements, and it also features two incredible Rayquaza alternate arts. This set has so much going for it. Not only that, but this also contains VMAX alternate arts of Glaceon, Sylveon, and Leafeon, which are some of the best artworks in Pokemon's history, and it cannot go without saying that this set contains one of the most iconic Pokemon cards in modern history with the Umbreon VMAX alternate art. This is one of the rarest cards to pull in existence for Pokemon, and it has an absolutely sensational artwork. Now, one area where Evolving Skies does not get a lot of love is the quality control of the set. It's outstanding that Evolving Skies cards grade so incredibly well, especially considering the printing demands required to get the stock out within the world during such a high peak period. I mean, Umbreon VMAX has over a 70% chance of scoring a PSA 10, which is absolutely outstanding for grading standards. However, there is one drawback of Evolving Skies, and to me that is the sealed booster box design. The yellows and greens make it stand out, but it does cheapen the feel of the set. It makes it feel a little bit less premium in a way due to the color choices. Now, obviously this isn't something that big, but as a sealed collector, it does become quite important, and I feel the sealed collection of Evolving Skies is a letdown. Though even though this affects sealed collectors, it's still important to note. Though nonetheless, this is one of the greatest sets ever created, and it most certainly deserves a spot in any top 10 sets. Now, moving on to the 9th greatest set Pokemon has ever released, it is Diamond and Pearl's Stormfront. This set is iconic, though for reasons beyond normal measures. You see, this set has actually some lore behind it, which explains why it's so iconic and why it's in the top 10 Pokemon sets of all time. To understand Stormfront's incredible set, it's imperative to understand Pokemon's position in the trading card market from 2003 to 2007. Pokemon were the king of trading cards in late 1999, and they held this stronghold until 2002, but as you all know, a competitor entered the scene in 2002 and took their limelight. That's right, Yu-Gi-Oh! With Yu-Gi-Oh! Dominating the trading card arena, Pokemon struggled to compete with this new popular trading card game. I mean, which makes sense, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is predominantly an anime that is entirely focused on trading cards. It's very hard to compete when Pokemon's main focus was split between the anime and their incredible video games. Trading cards were more of an additional business vertical revenue for them, right? Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading cards were their entire identity. This was their bread and butter, and they were letting Pokemon know who is king. Not only that, but the Wizards of the Coast licensing agreement expired with Pokemon during this time period, and this was a huge loss for Pokemon, as Wizards of the Coast were incredibly experienced in the creation of trading cards. So this transition was also really messy. However, with all this said, Pokemon entered somewhat of a dark age for their trading cards, and this era was a mess. Not in terms of quality, but in just terms of popularity. While Pokemon had their enormous high from 1999, by 2002 to 2007, Yu-Gi-Oh! Just started dominating the arena with sets such as Cybernetic Revolution and the Lost Millennium. Yu-Gi-Oh! Introduced Elemental Heroes, and the 5Ds era was introduced with Synchro cards along with Stardust Dragon. It was a complete domination. These sets and cards were crazy popular, and Pokemon were in a position where they just literally had to sit idly by and watch a new competitor dominate the arena. However, 2008 ticks over and Pokemon decide to raise the bar, and thus comes Diamond and Pearl's Stormfront. Now, Stormfront was sensational, though what really made Stormfront stand out was the reiteration of the original Charizard line from base set. Stormfront created updated artworks of these cards, which I personally believe are still some of the best iterations of the original Charmander line. These cards are probably the best way to give these classic cards a modern twist while still holding to their original core values. Not only that, but the Stormfront Charizard became a sensation, and it was one of the most highly desired trading cards throughout history. And even today, this card is one of the most sought after chase cards in all of Pokemon, with the PSA 10 copy exceeding $10,000. Now, not only that, but Stormfront had amazing packaging and booster box packaging. It truly stands as a relic of time where Pokemon showed that they can still make worldly noise with their trading cards, and it most certainly became one of the greatest sets ever to be released. Stormfront is considered by many collectors to be one of the greatest Pokemon sets of all time, and it really deservingly fits into the 9th spot. Now, segueing from the Diamond and Pearl era, there was one set that truly reshaped collecting and made Pokemon cards feel untouchable, and that was Black and White's Plasma Storm. Now, the Black and White era was a challenging era for Pokemon because Pokemon actually took an enormous risk with Generation 5 that didn't really work out for them, right? Generation 5's intention was to be this complete rebrand, right? In fact, Generation 5 introduced the most amount of Pokemon in history. The Black and White era introduced a total of 156 Pokemon, even more than Generation 1's 151. This was Pokemon's step into a new direction, though it was incredibly risky, and somewhat, to be fair, Pokemon kind of missed the mark with this. Pokemon cards were still finding their feet at this point, and they were not the dominant TCG, and they were actually still the underdogs, which is really weird because Pokemon is not an underdog. In fact, the word underdog and Pokemon can very rarely be used in a sentence, though here it truly was, right? They usually dominate everything they do. Now, the Black and White era did make amazing games, but they were kind of only appreciated years later, though the TCG had a few missteps within this era, right? However, this is where plasma sets started to release, and they ended the Black and White era with a bang. When looking at sets, we cannot just look at cards and make the decision. There's usually a story involved, and the 3 plasma sets from the Black and White era are truly memorable for their position within TCG history. However, the most important one was Plasma Storm, which was the first plasma set, and it really challenged collecting again, and it gave us some memorable card designs that are still highly sought after even today. Plasma Storm really shines in how compact and tight the set is. It truly doesn't make any missteps or add unnecessary cards. It feels sharp as a razor with getting the job done. Some of the most amazing cards within this set include the Lugia EX along with the Articuno EX. However, while these cards are amazing, Plasma Storm did include 2 shiny variations of Pokemon that truly remain some of the greatest Pokemon cards ever created. These cards go to both the secret rare shiny Charizard and the secret rare shiny Blastoise. These iconic cards are so connected to the Black and White era, and they made the set so enticing. Having Charizard and Blastoise be chase cards felt like a time capsule, along with the fact that these were shiny variations with these incredible gold borders. And it also felt like Pokemon finally understood what their fans truly desired. This was the set when Pokemon realized it's time to give fans what they truly want. Even today, these 2 cards are still so heavily sought after, which shows how timeless they are. And not only that, but Plasma Storm has some of the best looking booster packs and booster boxes when it comes to Pokemon collecting, which is incredibly important for sealed collectors. They look absolutely sensational to display. These have a very unique feel about them, and they are very iconic in their own way. Now, in the 7th spot goes to Gym Heroes. Now, Gym Heroes is based upon the Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green era, and has a very nice connection to Pokemon in Generation 1, right? It was also the first set to introduce owner Pokemon, and was relatively innovative for the time. Though one area where Gym Heroes did exceptionally well was their unique artworks. Now, owner Pokemon artworks are so specific that even without the owner's name, most collectors would be able to distinguish them as owner Pokemon. This artistic style was a very strong stepping stone for Pokemon. Now, Gym Heroes also gave us some sensational cards to, Erica's Clefable, to Blaine's Moltres, but more importantly, it contains Sabrina's Gengar, which is one of the most sought out Pokemon cards in the world today. The set really did a lot for pushing Pokemon into something bigger, and the introduction of owner Pokemon was something that bridged the gap between the anime to the collecting side. Even after all these years, it has never felt like Pokemon could recreate such a strong connection with the anime to their trading cards ever again. So for this reason, Gym Heroes leaves a very lasting impression, and it deserves a spot in the top 10. It truly is a time capsule, and it's a set that left its mark in Pokemon's history. Now, moving on to the next set, for you to understand this set's impact, you need to ask yourself a question, right? Now, imagine this. You create Pokemon, and Generation 1 is the biggest hit of all time, anime-wise, game-wise, and trading card-wise. You've literally created a world-shattering phenomenon. And now, every household knows of your name, and it's called Pokemon. How do you follow this up? Now, as Dr. Dre has famously said, remember, anyone can get it, but the hard part is keeping it. And this is where the 6th greatest set of all time goes to, and it is Neo Revelation, the 3rd installment of the Neo series for Generation 2. You see, Pokemon not only followed up Generation 1 in the best way they could, but they delivered with every single Neo expansion within Generation 2, but ultimately, their magnum opus of Generation 2 TCG expansions belongs to Neo Revelation. This is where Pokemon really started pushing the boundaries and even introduced Shining Pokemon, which included Shining Magikarp and Shining Gyarados as the top chase cards of the set, which added an immense amount of excitement. Now, Pokemon cards finally started feeling as if they were evolving beyond their means, right? Shiny Pokemon were finding a home outside of the anime and the games, and now they have found a home within trading cards, which is still relevant to today with shiny cards and radiant cards being so prevalent within the TCG. But Generation 2 is the most important transition for Pokemon, and the hardest part is actually following up when you've created something so big. We rarely have circumstances where sequels and follow-ups can stand toe-to-toe with their predecessor, and that's why Generation 2 and ultimately the Neo series and especially Neo Revelation were so significant for Pokemon. Now, here's a secret that not many people have shared, though it's very important to know. If Generation 2 failed, Pokemon would have ultimately failed, though they really did amazing in Generation 2. From the anime to the games with Gold and Silver and Crystal being some of the best games of all time. However, Neo Revelation truly felt different, and it still holds to be one of the best Pokemon expansions today. Not only were the shiny chase cards incredible, but it also had amazing artworks including Ho-Oh, Entei, Houndoom, Suicune, Blissey, and more. It genuinely reshaped collecting, and it was an amazing set that truly excelled. Now, moving on to our next set, it is all about nostalgia. Now, you see, nostalgia bait is a thing that most corporations do now, as it's literally free money. Instead of building a new and established concept from the ground up, you can just draw into a pool of an established market, revamp it a little bit, and voila, you've hit the jackpot. Though rarely can something heavily drawn from nostalgia be truly groundbreaking. And that's where we come to the 5th greatest set of all time, and it is Pokemon 151. Pokemon 151 on release had more reasons to fail than to succeed. As I mentioned, Pokemon know that they can literally release any base set variation and everyone will jump on the set. I mean, we've already seen this with evolutions and celebrations and Pokemon Classic. In fact, they don't even need to do much. Show the base set starter trio and you've got people lining up to buy it. However, this is where 151 was different. But 151 reshaped Pokemon forever. And now I do actually touch on the 4 reasons why Pokemon 151 is a goldmine in this video here. And this video was actually created in February 2024. And I believe it's even more relevant now than it was back then. However, without repeating everything that I said in that video, it's important to look at Pokemon 151. 151 didn't draw from base set. In fact, it did everything different. You cannot even compare base set with 151 other than the Pokemon. It's a completely different angle. Pokemon 151 really took a unique artistic angle for the original 151 Pokemon, and they really challenged how we see established Pokemon. Usually when you're dealing with Charizard, Blastoise, Mew, and the like, Pokemon likes to keep them in their standard poses and put them in recognizable positions. Though, not for 151. It literally did everything against the grain. It pushed boundaries and gave us some of the most memorable artworks of all time. And I believe as the future goes on, 151 will be remembered as one of the greatest Pokemon sets of all time. And to be fair, it kind of already is. I mean, you've got Blastoise, who is submerged underwater like a sea creature in a pose that we've never seen before. Charizard is flying over the canyons with its whole evolution line, telling a story from start to finish. Alakazam is like bending reality with books and getting like a very humanized feel. Mew is soaring through a busy city as if it's placed in like an Animal Crossing world. Tangela is swinging. Venusaur is in a bed of flowers. Literally every artwork is so recognizable, and everything about this set sparks curiosity and innovation. Pokemon 151 is one of the greatest sets of all time, and not because of nostalgia, but because of how different of a direction they took with established Pokemon. Pokemon took a risk and it paid off immensely. Now, some hardcore fans will say it is overrated, though I cannot really really agree with that point of view, as I can see the impact this set has had on the hobby and how many older fans have been reintroduced because of it and how many have just been brought back into the world of collecting. This set was a success in every single way, shape, and form, and Pokemon 151 is on the trajectory to become one of the most iconic Pokemon sets in history, and deservingly so. Now, moving along to the next Pokemon set. To understand the impact of the next set, I think it's very important to understand this quote, which is, "The strongest steel is forged by the fires of hell." And that's exactly what the 2003 to the 2007 range was for Pokemon. Now, I did mention earlier in the video that the 2003 to the 2007 period was a dark period for Pokemon TCG. Yes, it was very difficult, but that doesn't mean that some magic wasn't created during this period. In fact, this incredibly difficult period did see the release of Gold Star cards, which are considered some of the best and most expensive cards in Pokemon's history. Though while Pokemon was deep in the trenches with an incredibly competitive landscape, they did manage to create something truly amazing, and it is truly a miracle that a set of this quality was created during this time period. The fourth greatest set of all time belongs to EX Crystal Guardians. I personally believe this set has one of the best themes to ever be released within a Pokemon set. It truly felt unique and it feels irreplaceable. Though not only that, the cards inside are some of the best we've ever seen, ranging from the Delta Species Charizard or the Blastoise Delta Species cards. However, the rare cards in the set were also something sensational, with Jirachi EX, Kyogre EX, and Groudon EX. Though if that's already not enough, it also has two sensational Gold Star cards to top it off, with Alakazam and Gold Star Celebi. Overall, this set really showed some incredible artworks, and it really showed Pokemon do have the edge to compete in competitive markets. Now, as the years have passed, Gold Star cards have become so iconic and expensive, though this is a set that every collector would dream to own. Also, the booster box packaging is incredible, and the booster box in a sealed collection just looks absolutely fantastic. It really displays well, and it is definitely iconic in every way, shape, and form, and it's definitely one that any collector would love to own. Now, moving on to the third spot comes none other than the 1999 original base set. I mean, this set speaks for itself. There's just not much to say. You could literally pull out any card from this set, show it to a 35-year-old on the street, and they would be able to recognize these cards. It has literally become a permanent imprint on people's consciousness. It is so heavily nostalgic for so many generations. The designs are so simple, but they're perfect in their own way. The holos have their charm, and there's something about the designs that really capture Pokemon in its original state. Base set has a unique moment in time before Pokemon became what it is today. During this time, no one really knew the popularity Pokemon would have, right? No one knew Pokemon would become the highest grossing franchise in the world. No one had any idea that Pokemon could follow up from their original 151. Regardless, base set created some incredible cards with base set Charizard, base set Blastoise, Venusaur, and the like. It truly is one of the greatest sets ever released, and without it, we would never have Pokemon cards like today. I personally think these original Pokemon cards are one of the key reasons why Pokemon became so incredibly popular. I don't think the games and the anime would have been enough. If base set never existed, it would have been a completely different story, and this set deserves all the praise it can get. Now we're moving on to the second greatest set in Pokemon's history. When we think of Pokemon cards over the years, it's always been one of these things that everything would have been perfect if they just added this. This set would have been 10 out of 10 if they just did this. Sometimes with every set that gets released, we always have like a bit of a what if scenario, like, oh, something could have been done to make this just that little bit better. However, rarely is there a set that leaves no what ifs and genuinely delivers in every way, shape, and form, from artistic style to pull rates to packaging. And this goes to the second greatest set in Pokemon's existence, which is Crown Zenith. After collecting cards for over 20 years, I will never forget when I saw the set list for Crown Zenith. This was the first time in my recent memory when I was lost for words. Pokemon was wrapping up their greatest era in history for their trading cards with the Sword and Shield era. Somehow, Pokemon cards became even more popular than they were in 1999, and Pokemon decided to package a near-perfect set to end the most iconic era it has ever lived through. Crown Zenith truly is a masterpiece. The artistic theme of the cards is so well thought out. It carries carries a consistent battle royale theme. It feels so intense and full of energy. It truly captures the final dance of an iconic era. This set includes some of the most popular Pokemon of all time, from Deoxys to Zeraora, to Mewtwo charging Psypurge with intensity, to Darkrai flowing over a beach ominously. This set has some of the most iconic legendaries. I don't think that there's any set in Pokemon's history that looks better in a master set than Crown Zenith, along with having such a strong roster of Pokemon to complement this set. It contains evolutions to the 3 legendary beasts. It has the 2 box legendaries from Sword and Shield with both Zacian and Zamazenta. Even the lower rarity Galarian Gallery cards showing some of the most creative artworks within Pokemon's history. From Diancie to Keldeo to Altaria, it truly doesn't miss with any of its artistic style. Along with that, it contains one of the best Pikachu cards of all time. This is one of the top 3 Pikachu cards ever made, and if these cards don't top it off, it ends the finale with having 4 outstanding Gold Generation 4 legendary cards with the most unique artistic style as the chase cards, each feeling unique in their own way. Crown Zenith really made you feel as if this is the last Pokemon pack ever in history. It's enjoyable to collect, it's enjoyable to invest, and it's enjoyable to rip open. Literally, the only drawback from Crown Zenith is that it is a specialty set, meaning that you can only get it through Elite Trainer boxes or booster bundles and other ancillary products, which does make it harder for the collector and the investor as your storage options become limited. However, if Crown Zenith was a mainline booster box, this set would be close to impossible to top, though never say never. And this just shows the amazing quality Pokemon can come together when they stick to a cohesive artistic style. However, this does leave us for the top spot. There's a few things that need to be understood. Now, in 2009, Pokemon decided to re-release their most incredible games of all time with Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and still to this day, these games are considered to be the greatest Pokemon games of all time. However, during this era, Pokemon also decided to create a set which truly remains as the greatest set of all time. The greatest Pokemon set of all time goes to Call of Legends. Call of Legends is a perfect set. It doesn't make one wrong move. From the art style to the consistent theme drawing into the legendary Pokemon, which are all gathering in one place. Even the naming of the set, it is literally as flawless as a diamond. Call of Legends featured legendary Pokemon that appeared throughout the Heart Gold and Soul Silver series, and it also featured some very rare shiny versions of these Pokemon. Now, not only that, but Call of Legends doesn't just have amazing rare cards in the set, right? The entire library of the set has some of the highest caliber of artworks ever seen from every card inside the pack. Call of Legends is a true revival. This set includes the absolutely sensational shiny Deoxys card, all the way to my personal favorite, the amazing secret rare Suicune. This set also features some lower tiered rarity cards, which have fantastic artwork, such as Jirachi, along with the Ninetales, which is the best artwork of Ninetales to date. It also featured incredibly creative Eevee and Eeveelution artworks within the set, which are super unique and have their own artistic style. The shiny legendary cards are truly amazing, and this set does feel like it captured its name perfectly. It truly feels as if it is the Call of Legends. When creating sets, it's not just about having amazing cards. What matters way more is capturing an artistic theme that connects the entire set together. It's about the creative integrity that's held through. Call of Legends truly feels as if this set never strays away from its original intention. It's like an album that has no filler. Every card feels as if it has a spot. Nothing feels overdone, nothing feels undercooked, everything is in the right place, which is one of the hardest accomplishments to achieve when creating a Pokemon set. To top it off, the booster packs truly feel like they have a cohesive artistic feel, and they give an amazing preview of the cards inside the set, and the booster box makes you feel as if you are about to open something truly special. This is a true representation of Pokemon at the top of their game, and it will take a lot of work for Pokemon to top this off. Call of Legends has an incredible aura around it. Now yes, the cards that I mentioned today are all my opinion, though it goes without saying that these are some of the greatest Pokemon sets within history, and if you did enjoy this video, then here is some of the 10 most undervalued undervalued Pokemon cards to buy at the moment. Even though I went through a bit of a timepiece in history today, the cards that are appearing on the screen right now in this video are more about today's cards and more relevant today. If you enjoyed today's video, then click this video on screen and I'll see you there.